Hello and welcome to the Photo Brigade Podcast. This is our second podcast of the day, celebrating our 100th episode here at Adorama in their event space. I have Nigel Parry sitting next to me. I'm super thrilled to have you, Nigel. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
So before we get started, I just want to say thank you again to Adorama for letting me use their event space so often. Thank you to Canon Professional Services for all of your support. Bags. Also, Stephen Kaplan's here taking pictures and posting them on social. He's S. Kaplan Photos. He spins it social for everyone. Boom. How you like that? And also, we're going to be retweeting him on our Facebook and everything. So, and our Twitter feed. So, and also thank you to Temba Bags for all of your support. So, let's get to you, Nigel. We were introduced by Gary Hirshorn.
That's right.
Through email, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I've got someone that you should maybe have on your podcast. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, of course I'd be interested to have Nigel on.
Steady on. So.
You have a pretty, I guess we could say, illustrious career photographing some of the biggest celebrities, most important people, powerful people, heads of state, you name it, you've shot it, and majority of your work has been for, high-end, cover shoots or
Sounds
clients.
very good the way you put it like that.
Well, it is very good, and so I'm really pretty thrilled to go over all of this with you. You have put together a nice. What do you call it? A
sort of a little keynote thingy.
Keynote,
yeah.
And it kind of starts from the beginning of your career, which is perfect.
This is
so
directly right at the start. That's the first ever photo I ever had published by a postcard manufacturer.
Oh, really? Was there big money in that back in the day?
There was. I think I made a penny per sale. I think I sold about 3,000 or something. But this, I used to work originally. I was a designer. I started as a graphic designer, and I worked for a company called Faber & Faber, a publishing company. And during the lunchtimes and evenings and mornings, I used to wander around taking photographs just for fun. And that is the product of that.
Of just wandering around.
Just wandering
How long
around.
ago was this?
That was that would have been 1985, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. And this is back in London.
Back in London, yeah.
All right.
And actually, can I have the feed down the left so I can see what's coming next? Because that will help me. Or is that not
It's
doable?
Not. That's the thing that we can't do.
This is going to be surprising then.
See it.
Okay.
So we're just
right.
we're gonna have
just
to
go
wing
through
it. We're gonna wing it.
Yeah, this is the sort of stuff. After I'd done a load of photos, I went to the designers there, who actually were in charge of some of the covers that I wasn't doing, and said, "Hey, I'd love to start photographing for you guys as well as working here designing books." And luckily, they took pity on me, and I got.
That's
I
something.
started photographing. Yep, absolutely. I started photographing authors. Yep.
Started I've actually
for the covers of books.
I'm starting to do some more of that now. As a matter of fact, some used to do back in the day.
Keep going.
Got to pay the rent.
And because of my association with the publishing company that I was working with, I was able to get this incredible exhibition at a club called the Groucho Club in London, which was basically a series of double bluffs. It's kind of a long, convoluted story, but that's basically how my career began, with a series of 50 photographs of famous people who belong to this Groucho Club.
Oh, wow. I'm going to let you drive, because I'm not sure exactly what's coming back.
Let's keep going. I carried on working as a designer and also photographing people sort of during the dinner times and lunch times and mornings and stuff.
Interesting.
For a while. And this is one of the photographs which helped me sort of establish my name as, I think people used to call it sort of just basically wrinkly in your face photos. So I got very well known for doing this kind of thing.
Sort of a style of lighting.
Yeah. Well, the style of lighting was basically I traveled around on a motorcycle, still do, but not all the time. And I could only fit a couple of lights in my backpack that I had on my back. So it was literally necessity dictated my style.
Nice.
And a lot of the time I was actually shooting in very, very small places. So black background, piece of black velvet stuffed in the bag also worked.
Oh, wow.
So, and again, this sort of stuff. This one's significant because this was run over the full of the above the fold of a newspaper called The Guardian, just when this Right Honourable Michael Heseltine was trying to be the leader of the Tory party. And this, I believe, might have changed the course of history.
Oh, really?
Because this was seen on the newsstands everywhere the morning of the vote.
Just kind of like
just literally peeking over,
fold.
yeah. And there was no type, no nothing. It was just that. It was pretty extraordinary.
That's amazing, yeah.
I carried on working throughout my time in England, shooting this kind of stuff.
So was it always portraiture?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never did anything else, yeah.
Except for
But that comes later, actually.
Yeah.
It's sort of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, always portraiture for various magazines, as many magazines as possible. Because I'd started working sort of late in my career, I had 10 years out of college not taking photographs. I felt that I needed to really hurry up and catch up. So some weeks I would shoot maybe 15, 20 shoots a week for people, just going around on my motorcycle, setting stuff up, and had no assistants or anything. It was just a one-man band kind of thing.
Wow.
This is significant in that...
Has that changed since then?
A little, yes. Although I think it's going back that way. This is significant because this is perhaps one of the most frightening experiences I've ever had photographing anyone. This is Martin McGuinness. He was the chief of staff of the IRA. And I was actually threatened by his henchmen that if I didn't take a nice photo of him, they would kill me.
Oh, my God.
And they described exactly how they would follow me and find me and murder me.
Oh, my God.
And the writer of this story, in actual fact, when he put the story together, they didn't like, the IRA didn't quite like the thought that they'd been getting from him and the way he was slanting things. So they threatened to blow up the whole of Hearst magazines along Broadwick Street if they ran the piece. So this is the only time this ever gets seen.
Oh, jeez.
I haven't been killed yet. So.
Okay.
Serge Gainsbourg. This was my first ever foreign job from England. I was sent for a day to Paris to shoot this guy. Crazy man. Wonderful, wonderful. Awesome fun. And that was for the Independent magazine, which there were certain magazines whose photo editors I really looked up to, and the work they were doing was fantastic. So I would aim to try to get to work for those magazines.
So when you started, what was the
time period?
Well, not necessarily time period. I'm just kind of wondering what how did you get the clients that you did? How did you start pursuing them? Did you start sending portfolios? Did you meet with them? Did they see your work elsewhere and call you?
Well, when you start out, that sort of thing always happens, that, every time you have something published, it is your advert, so people see it and they want to use you, and then it sort of snowballs from there. But I used to do this pretty often, I would find a magazine or a company that I liked what they were doing, and I would then pursue them somehow. I'd find a way of getting in, and coming from the design side of it, I often would go through the design directors, and I knew them because of being from design, so I would sort of say, listen, can you introduce me to the photo director? Yeah. That kind of stuff. So that's the way this happened.
Gotcha.
And I carried on working throughout England, doing all sorts of fun things, and these are all about maybe 20 to 25 years old. But working for all the sort of big magazines that there were there. And then one day I was sent to America to photograph this gentleman, Quentin Crisp. This was in 1990, I think. And when I was here, I had such a wonderful experience, walking along St. Mark's and things like that. I decided that I just had to come here. It was the way I'd been treated was totally different to England. It seemed like a much more serious thing here.
Interesting.
Photography. So,
well, New York back then was, as you can see,
it was
a little different than it is now.
Yes, a little different, yeah. And I would never have known that literally 4 years after this, I was living in Astor Place, just along the way from there.
Interesting, yeah.
So that was great. Yeah, but I deliberately made an actual choice to, that was it. That was a sort of a lightning bolt. I have to be here.
Yeah.
Whilst I was here doing that last shoot, I actually was asked by the Sunday Times magazine to come and photograph Alfred Eisenstadt, who just happened to be in town. So that was a scary moment, photographing someone like that.
It really is difficult when you're
really hard.
Photographing somebody that's not only, just an amazing photographer himself, but yeah.
Yeah, and he insisted on photographing me too, which was equally worrisome. But anyway.
Yeah, did you get a good shot out of it?
No, I never saw it.
Ah, of course.
I must have blinked or something.
Someday, go through those archives.
So I carry on working through England. this magazine was the Sunday Times magazine, and I became contracted to them through a very good, well, I didn't know he was a very good friend, but he subsequently became one. Aidan Sullivan, who now works for Getty Images, he was the photo director at the Sunday Times magazine for a long while. And he contracted me there as a photographer, which then left me, well, you could once say it freed me up for a lot more work, or it stopped me from working for every other Sunday magazine, which then made me really think hard about going to, come to America and finding other outlets. So this is the work from there. This is a wonderful series I did. This is an artist called Jenny Saville, and she was very, very game. She sort of paints huge nudes, and they're all based on herself. And she's a rather large lady, as we'll see in a minute. And this was all part of a series that I did. This is her. We just turned her into basically one of her own paintings, which she was great, really great, and game to do that. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Now, do you keep and get? Do you have stacks of all of the where your pictures have been published? Do you have like a wall of all your covers?
I don't know. I don't do that, but I've subsequently moved house a few times, and each time I move house, a box seems to get lost, which gets very, very annoying. And I was trying to find this one, and I can't find it anyway. I've just moved again just recently. This is the time when I realized I had to make the move, and this was in 1994. I was photographing for the New York Times magazine, Meryl Streep, and she spent a whole day with me. We were shooting for the whole day. When it came for, the New York Times magazine just ran one inside picture. My contracted magazine, being the Sunday Times magazine, wanted to run the piece too. But they wanted to run more pictures with the cover, and her PR people refused to do an interview because it was such a small magazine. So I thought, that's it, I got to make a move. So that year I actually moved over here, and these are some of the shots from that shoot. Which they,
wow, these are beautiful. Typically, what sort of gear were you using?
Oh, in those days it was all Hasselblad.
All Hasselblad, yeah.
All Hasselblad and 2 1/4 square.
Okay.
I changed a little when it came to the magazine's format, depending on what it was like, and I just put one of those little masks in the back, so turn it to sort of 4x5-ish sort of thing. But so I made my move with the help of my agent, Jeff Katz from CPI. I moved over here in '94, and I decided, again, I set my goal of having, within the first year, I wanted to have the cover of the New York Times magazine. So this is how I sort of pushed myself constantly.
That's great, yeah.
And I did. I got it within 6 months of arriving, so I was pretty pleased about that. And then I went on for photographing for them.
So does it happen, like, I noticed that these photos, as we're kind of going chronologically, you start shooting some covers, then you all of a sudden are shooting more covers and more celebrities, and then you're shooting political figures, and then all of a sudden you're a political guy, and you're shooting more politics. Yeah. Sort of one thing leads to another, leads to another.
Yeah. I've sort of kept, it's actually not, I love doing it. I love doing the politicians. I also love doing the famous people, and I love doing the totally unknowns who are just newsworthy.
Right.
The variation is fantastic. And it's such a privilege to be able to do it. It really is. But, this was all from one shoot that then get used time after time after time on all sorts of things. Again, we're moving on now. This is actually the first digital shot I think I ever did.
Okay, so let's talk about your transition from film to digital a little bit.
It took a very, very long time.
And this is a sort of a thing with you, at least from our brief conversations. I mean, you were talking to me about like not knowing what I was talking about with the digital blah blah blah.
Yes, all those words you were using. What are they?
So, what was were you the type that said, "Oh, this is bull crap"?
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you how that came about. I was because I used Hasselblad all the time. I was given one of their cameras to try and use, and the early versions just kept breaking down. And I didn't like the tetheredness and all that kind of stuff, and it just didn't work for me at all. I used to work very fast in short bursts, which I could do. I just used to hand crank my Hasselblad, so it was faster than the actual motor drive one.
Right.
And I would only change to digital when they got it as fast as it was for me to do normal film work. And I wasn't being held up. And in the end, I switched to Canon, and I've used Canon ever since. And I have identical sets of cameras, identical sets of lenses, all set up exactly the same, so that when one card won't work anymore, my assistant hands me the other camera, which is full and just working everything. So I have duplicates of everything.
That's
so
great.
That it just works that way.
So there's no
so I can keep going.
downtime.
No.
Yeah, very smart.
Yeah, so that's the way. And that way, it worked like me just handing film backs off like with the old Hasselblad.
Yeah.
Instead, I just handed a camera off.
So all Canon now. So
All Canon. Yeah.
And you're not using the Hasselblad digital backs or anything like that?
When it's required by advertising clients, then I'll use them. But they're not my favorite thing. I'll be honest with you. You can't have... it's a little bit, I have to say this, even though I know I'm going to get into trouble, but it's sort of, you can almost see, it's like a snake swallowing a snail or a slug or something. You can see the pulse. It takes so long to reach the camera, and from the camera to the computer that I just can't stand it, to tell you the truth. But I use it when I'm requested to. Anyway, we'll carry on. So then working for the New York Times Magazine, thank you very much, Kathy Ryan. I used to get lots of work from them.
Yeah, Kathy's great, and she has a great project from the office.
She does indeed, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's turned her Instagram account into
Absolutely.
and she's done a book now.
Yep, she has.
Office Romance.
That's right. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether does that mean she loves her office? I don't know.
I'll have to ask her.
Well, good luck getting hold of her right now.
Don't I know? Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. Let's carry on.
So you were doing. Go back here one.
Yep.
You got involved in. How often do you do sports figures? Is this a rarity that you do someone in sports? Because you don't see many of these guys.
Actually, yeah, it is a rarity. It's more because I think if you're a sports photographer, you're generally used to doing the action. So it's very much all about the timing that you have. I'm not particularly very good at timing. I'm not very sporty. I have no idea really just about when a ball is going to connect with a bat, or whether someone's going to catch it, or where indeed it's likely to go once it's been hit. So I think I'll be asked to do things when they want more of an introspective portrait sort of stuff. But I still have to show that they are a sports person. Yeah. So it'll be holding a bat or a glove or a ball or something.
Yeah. And then this fella's
quite a fella. Not for much longer, though, I guess.
Not for much longer, yeah.
This is a lot of work I used to do for Newsweek. Actually, maybe I've taken a lot of that out, yeah. But Simon Barnett, I became good work buddies with him, and I used to do an awful lot for Newsweek when it was out and about. Mm-hmm. I know it is now, but in its earlier incarnation.
I did a phone interview with him once for an internship.
You did?
That was intimidating, let me tell you.
Simon's a good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy. He
can
be intimidating, yeah. This is interesting because this was for New York Magazine. This, we didn't know this, but someone in their inimitable wisdom decided to look at the stars that were drawn on the wings of the aeroplane. Mm-hmm. Now, this was a whole project that I was photographing where the children who witnessed 9/11 were asked to draw their feelings and thoughts, and it was a therapeutic sort of thing. But when this was used on the cover of the magazine, Yasser Arafat's office called my agency to say, so do you agree that it was a Jewish conspiracy? Because apparently those are little Jewish stars.
Yeah, Star of David type things, yep.
And it caused all sorts of ructions and problems where the magazine had to apologize to everybody and everything. And
because the kid drew it.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't.
Yep.
Oh, these next two are sort of an interesting comparison of, as you go throughout your career, you get known for certain things. You know, people will say, we want a typical Nigel Parry. And I'm kind of like, well, everyone's very different, so I don't really know what a typical Nigel Parry is. But I figure that it's something more in your face. But this occasion, I've had to replicate this a number of times. This was for Premiere Magazine when that was out, and this was for the movie Ice Storm. And we had 4 very, very big actors in Ice Storm and 1 big director. And I had to find a way of photographing them without really any hierarchy. So this just came to me literally while I was there wondering what to do, basically sweating and worrying. And but then since then, I've been asked to replicate that a number of times.
Oh, yeah. There it is, yeah.
So it's not just for that. It's for all sorts of other stuff. It's a very easy way of...
So that's the Nigel Parry.
Apparently that's the Nigel Parry in a row. Yeah,
right. Yeah. I got to knock that off some point.
And here's another occasion where this was God, I wish I could see my things at the bottom because I've forgotten his name. He's in every movie. The joke is he's in every movie. Yes, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. I'm gonna take your face off.
That's it. That's right.
Okay.
Well, this was then requested to appear in another photo here.
Oh, yeah, so right. With Musk,
it's that sort of stuff. It's funny that you do end up repeating yourself. Although I was once photographing.
At least they're not asking someone else.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. I was photographing Tom Ford, and I photographed him a number of times. And in the middle of the shot, I was like, "Oh, Tom, shit! I can't take this. I did this last week." And he said, "Nigel, look, you shouldn't worry." He said, "We spend the first half of our careers ripping someone else off, and the second half of our careers ripping ourselves off."
Oh, very nice.
Said,
That's
so
great.
Take the photo. It'll be fine.
Oh, I bet this was an amazing shoot.
Yeah, Robin Williams. I photographed him a number of times. This is significant in that he's the only man that I've ever had to just basically light the whole studio.
Oh, because he would run around everywhere.
You would have no idea what he was going to do next, where he was going to be. You could not just focus in your light whatsoever. It's not one space that he could. So I stopped putting marks on the floor, and I just let him just
human light
to get
stands
a
or
huge,
something.
Yeah, a huge psych and just let him go. He was just incredible. Rest his soul.
Yeah, what a terrible loss. And again, I got to photograph him once. It was.
How was he with you?
I got him. I convinced him to go to the rooftop of the hotel. We were doing like a press junket for a movie he was in, and got him to go up on the rooftop. And he really he was in his element. There was so much emotion in his face. I don't know if he was being himself or being a character or what it was, but I mean.
Well, this was when he was doing that. That movie about the famous writer who used to have those black and white balls.
Capote.
Gosh, thank goodness for an audience. And I wanted to just really pay homage to the Irving Penn photograph of Capote.
Sure.
So the moment he walked in, I said, "This is what I want to do." He said, "I want to do nothing to do with Capote, the movie or anything." So it took the whole shoot for me to maneuver him into this exact position, which is the shot.
The shot, right?
Shot, yeah. So
before we go on, I want to talk about that. So you have all of these. All right. So it takes experience to be working with these celebrities. A lot of times you have someone like him that comes in, and I've had it with other celebrities that are very much, they will do something, they won't do something. Yeah. They're very the way they are about things. Is it still intimidating to you to work with these types of people, or are you just like, we'll get through it? Like, what's your thought process when you?
A lot of sweating. I'm terrified, always.
Really?
Always very, very worried, yeah. And generally, if I'm doing a shoot, the worry starts the week before, or whenever I find out about it.
So isn't that interesting? It's not just us, little shooters. Even the big shooters worry about the.
I've even brought a towel here with me today because I'm known to just sweat buckets. Seriously,
sweat towel.
But it's good. It's profuse but odorless.
Oh yeah.
But and I have to tell people, I once actually did sweat on a prime minister.
Oh, did you?
It's one of those terrifying things where you saw the bead of sweat just drip, and I looked down and it went and hit his hand whilst he was
hand no.
Sorry about that. You sort of get your handkerchief out and start dabbing it off. It's like a terrible movie. Anyway, we should carry on.
Yeah, move on. Yep.
This is the sort of stuff that I'll sort of make mental notes of. And as I'm walking around, I'll see that and think, ooh, that would be good for a shot. I'm not sure when it's going to happen. And I saw just a guy washing the windows, and then I was going to photograph this gentleman the next day. Mm-hmm. And I made my assistant go get buy a bucket and some soap and a squeegee. I said, let's try that one. So that
really turned out nicely, really nice. And this is just natural light too, probably, right?
Yeah. And this is another occasion when I shot this girl who's a complete unknown. It was for a fashion thing. I can't even remember what it was all about now. But then I remembered that, thinking that was never going to be seen anywhere, really, so that the next time I could use it for someone better.
Nice. I'm going to come and I'm going to kill your family.
That's right. Exactly. Don't get on the wrong side of it. He's a great guy, actually. I've sort of become quite friendly acquaintances.
Very nice.
This, one of those times when someone actually didn't know they were going to be photographed.
Oh.
And he refused.
Interesting.
And I said, well, do you mind if I set some lights up anyway and see? He said, yeah, but I'm not going to pose no matter what. I said, okay. So then he literally picked one of his kittens up just as he was, this is in the middle of the interview, and he just said, just look my way, please. And he did, and I think I got maybe 2 frames, and that was about it.
Have you had a bunch of shoots or many shoots where you've gone on it or someone's come and they've refused to be photographed in this capacity?
No, oh gosh, I just remember yesterday I just ditched the shot. It was Lawrence Bender, who's a movie producer.
Uh-huh.
He actually, this was for New York Magazine. I was sent all the way to LA, got set up, took the Polaroid. He asked to see the Polaroid. I showed him the Polaroid, which is very unusual for me because normally I would say no, sorry. And he said, great, it looks fantastic, looks great. He said, so now you're not taking the photo. And I said, what do you mean I'm not taking the photo? Do you know I can change the light if you don't like it? You know, you can never not go back with a photo when someone sent you to to all the way over to LA. And he said, yeah, well, I'm sorry it's you, but I'm just giving a big finger to the magazine. They wrote something really bad about me last week, and I didn't like it, so I thought I'd just waste their money. And I never got the shot.
I wasted your time.
Wasted my time, 3 days, yeah. But then W Magazine asked me to photograph the exact same man in New York, so then I got my own back too.
Did you? Nice.
I went up to him, I got all set up, took the Polaroid and showed it to him, and I said, so do you like it? Is it okay? And he said, I love it, I love it. I said, great, because now I'm not going to take it.
Oh, nice.
And I said, do you remember 3 years ago? He's like, oh, fuck, was that you? Needless to say, in my responsibility to my client, I did take the photo. But anyway, but it was nice to have a little play with him.
Yeah, absolutely. So go back to
that.
To our
this is
former
another.
president.
This is another. There was a story behind this too. I was on assignment for People magazine, photographing their Christmas cover, where I had to photograph him and his wife together in front of a Christmas tree.
President Bush, for those just listening.
Right. Yeah, and I thought I can't have this opportunity of not getting the president somehow. So I made an excuse up that what I was doing was having to photograph, because I would never do this, by the way, everyone. But I made the excuse up that I was having to photograph a tight-in of their heads just in case one was blinking and we could lift a head off and put it on another one on a different frame and everything. And luckily he fell for it. So
he's a gullible one.
I was able to. He was very, very nice. Of all the presidents, he's the one I'd go down the pub for a drink with.
Oh, yeah? Well, yeah.
Very amusing guy, constantly joking.
Compared to, let's say, photographing Clinton and Obama.
Clinton, just all-powerful, just an all-powerful man in those days. And he just had this aura about him. Obama is very, very, I found him very standoffish, very... There is a big, big divide that it's virtually impossible to get over.
Interesting.
Before, I photographed him when he was senator, and when he was just a senator, he was very different. But when he became president, that was a different kettle of fish. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember his name. Julian, yes. These are all photographs for Vanity Fair and just generally working here with props and stuff, how it helps.
So who are your main clients now in New York? How have they changed from when you moved to these days?
Well,
if they have.
Because some of the magazines have closed.
Oh, right. Have you seen a real... has it affected your pocketbook, seeing the media industry?
Yeah, completely, yeah. It's a very, very different world.
Have you, since that's been happening, been doing more commercial advertising work to try to compensate?
Yep. We have to try and compensate, yeah. So trying to do a lot more of that.
Right.
I'm going to whiz through these.
Oh, these are great.
It's just fun things again.
I bet that's so exciting. It seems like so often you're shooting somebody that you know.
This is pretty significant in that this is Alexander Mcqueen, and this is about...
Wow.
It was about 3 years before he killed himself, but he was exceedingly... there was something... He was very uncomfortable in his own skin, and I said, look, hey, Alexander, if I could give you something, what would you write on your head? If I give you a lipstick now, go over to the mirror and write something on your head, what would it be? And he came back, and I just did that.
How do you come up with those ideas? Like, like, is that something you have done before, or is that what?
No, I just tear my hair out and think, oh, there's something going on here.
Like, I got this lipstick here.
Well, I didn't. I said, what would you write on your head? Then I looked for something. I thought, I can't give him a Sharpie because he's not going to use that. So I had to give him something that was going to at least rub off.
Right.
So there we go.
Yeah.
This is my infatuation as well with edges. I love edges of things and composition and total negative space. I think this comes from design because I used to be a type designer as well, so I love the negatives.
You're big with contrast. You know, a lot of contrast in a lot of your photos.
Well, it's all or nothing, isn't it? Life is all or nothing.
And so do you do a lot of, are most of your shoots, because compared to me, if I ever do a celebrity, it's quick press junket type things for the most part. Are yours more, do you usually have more time with these guys?
Yeah.
Is it set up for a cover shoot?
It's set up for a cover or for something like that. Sometimes you don't have long. Sometimes even then they'll give you a certain amount of time. But generally, if it's a celebrity, they know that this is going to be useful to them.
Right.
Even though they're not being paid and all that kind of
Sure,
stuff.
yeah.
They understand the process. They're used to film sets. They're used to films and all that kind of stuff. This is an interesting shot simply because I brought this because this is how sometimes you can shoot yourself in the foot, but it's worthwhile doing to be true to what you actually believe. I was sent to photograph a gambler in Vegas. And this guy, they said to me, look, this guy, he wins millions of dollars at poker. He's a really, really famous guy. Everybody knows him. And we want you to go to his house and photograph him. We want him to look like James Bond. He's basically what everybody wants to be. And I forget, it wasn't Esquire, but it was maybe Maxim magazine. So I get there, and the house is completely empty. No furniture, no nothing. And I was like, I have to take this picture. Do you have anything that suggests how successful you are?
Playing cards, yeah.
He's like, no. No, my agent won't let me have any money because I just gamble it all on the horses.
Oh, jeez.
And he said, this is all I've got left. I've had to sell all my furniture.
Oh, my gosh.
So I just literally threw the cards all over the floor. And I said, this is the guy that you wanted me to photograph. There he is. That's the man, the real man. Thought, well, we can't use that. That's the photograph.
That's your shot.
That's your story.
This is a Nigel Parry shot.
Yeah, this is
what I do.
That's your photograph. I don't know what your writer has written, but that's a bunch of lies because this is the man.
Very cool.
Then I got a great deal with Esquire in that I just became friendly with them, and
yeah, you've been doing a lot of work with them. Yeah, a lot of work for Esquire.
Yeah. So these are all the various bits and bobs with Tom. Actually, it's very interesting too because the sort of the A-listers, let's call them, they're all very, very easy to get along with, and they never really do act like a idiot. They're all, but it's the B-listers and the C-listers who come with their riders and their 15 people in their entourage and have to be looked after and have their hand held.
Yeah.
But these guys never do.
How are you with celebrities and letting them see what you're shooting? Never? Sometimes?
It depends. If it's a woman, they generally want to see it. But guys generally don't really matter. And I'll often, the way I shoot it, I don't shoot tethered. I shoot to card.
Okay.
So I have a deliberate, I can say it's not downloaded. There's nothing to see.
Yeah. Piece of gaffer's tape right on the back of it. This is a film camera, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Other times, if I really like something, when I see it, if they're getting changed for the next set, I'll literally carry the computer and say, look, this is what we're doing. I think it's fantastic.
Okay.
Done.
Right.
Just so they get a feeling. If it's something that they're not comfortable with, I mean, I was photographing a large movie star yesterday, and I had to show him because this concept that we had, he wasn't quite getting until he actually saw it on the screen. So those times you have to do that.
Cool. When do we get to see that?
You'll get to see that in 2 months' time for these guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll keep an eye on the cover. Now he's
known to be a cantankerous person. Yeah, he was absolutely wonderful. I mean, if you can see here, I had him falling in the swimming pool quite a few times. He did a big running jump and whatnot. But and he would do anything. De Niro, same. Shows up, does his stuff.
Does his job.
At this point, I was even.
Was this at his restaurant, his place, or?
This was in Greenwich
That's
Hotel.
the hotel,
yeah,
his hotel. Yeah.
This was at a point where I had to begin doing videos for Esquire magazine as well.
Oh, okay. So that's a new transition.
That was new transition. But that totally freaks me out. Directing these people, it's talk about getting a sweat on. Then that's just terrifying. I'm like, Mr. De Niro, could you do this? And he's like, just tell me what you want me to do.
Just do, yeah.
Terrified.
Oh man.
Now this is kind of funny because here's
my wife's all excited now.
This is the glamour. Here's the glamour, and here's the real thing behind the scenes. This is what he was throwing his drink at.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
It was a very makeshift sort of because I literally came up with that. I was like, oh my god, it'd be great if you threw it at me. And I'm going to get wet through because we had to do it a load of times. Mm-hmm. So I just literally got the prop guys to get me a bin bag and trash bag and wrap me up in it.
Mm-hmm. It's great stuff. This is like a classic. Was this a cover or was this?
No, that was a double page.
Double page. Yeah.
I actually after I shot this, I did show it to him, and he was like, "Oh my god, you've made me look like a movie star."
Oh, okay.
Funny that. Now this is something different because nobody will expect me to do this. I shoot the Vince Lombardi Trophy. For years I did. This came about by I think there are more as well. This came about by photographing a load of football players for them, and then they just happened to say, the one on the left, they said, "Look, we've got the trophy. Do you mind if we take it up the mountain in Sedona, and can you take some pictures whilst you're here?" So I said, "Sure, whatever. It's an extra day's work." I said, I don't have any idea how to shoot still life, but I know how light works, and it goes in straight lines, so I'm sure I can make this work." And for about 6-7 years, I did it for them because apparently I imbued it with character that it doesn't normally have. And other stuff that I do.
So
this is more about it.
Commercial advertising.
What's interesting about this is Vera Wang was actually doing her own styling, and I literally would show her, because it's fashion, you've got to get it right for them. So I would show her the computer of the take. Say, for instance, the one on the left, I distinctly remember saying, "This is what I'd love to do. I love the composition." She said, "Great. Okay, next." One frame.
Wow. That's
and
amazing.
It happened with all of them.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And more stuff, advertising and things. And then I'll do stuff for music every now and again. Yeah.
Are you doing videos for music now?
I did do it. Yeah, I did do a couple. They're not very easy to do. Other stuff you won't expect from me because this is the stuff which people don't expect.
You got to pay the bills.
Sort of girly
do a little
stuff.
bit of everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
And then I think I'm just now going to just skip through.
So
this is important. I put this in because this is how much I like to capture things in camera and never use
Photoshop.
Yeah, I avoid that as much as possible. So that we actually had a very complicated system of wires and stuff, literally just taped to the back of the ball, and we just hung it a little bit over the front, so you lost the. I think it was a bent coat hanger, to tell you the truth.
So speaking of post-production stuff, do you feel that there are a lot of folks that use post-production but might use it more as a crutch? Do you think, or do you? What are your feelings towards it?
I have been known to throw creative directors off the set if they say, "Oh, we'll fix it in post."
One of those, yeah. We just posted one of these things, these Batman things.
So I tell you what, why don't I just give you the camera, and you can do your own stuff.
Yes.
This was very complicated because this is a really heavy train, and I had to put a brace looking from underneath the front of the rail that went down through the vision of the camera to just behind his leg.
Isn't that something?
Because I was determined that this thing could just come out of the wall. These are just knives stuck through the back of a foam core.
These photos, they all kind of seem to have a direction, a thought, very thought out. Are these mostly yours, or is it creative direction from a creative director?
No, it's very rare that I get any kind of direction. People don't tend to direct me at all. I used to, when I worked for W Magazine all the time, they would just say, "Here's the person, here's the place, here's the time." And that was it. I said, "What do you want me to do?" They said, "Just take a photo." Sounds good. But sometimes, you know, if it's for a specific thing, this was deliberate. She's a friend, and I wanted to turn her into a sort of biblical figure.
Knife angel.
Yeah, something like that. It sort of reminded me of those halos of those on those sort of 16th, 15th century paintings and stuff. And again, with Robert De Niro, this is a series of mirrors we actually just set up, which could easily have been done just by shooting them against black. But
just one light from above?
One light from above between that, yeah. And I just had him look around at me through the various mirrors. So that setup was about 4 or 5 hours before he walked in. And he literally just wandered in. I didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
He just walks in and says, "Is this the photo shoot?"
I was going to say, I did a shoot actually at his hotel. That's why I mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
And the one rule that I had was, you might see Mr. De Niro, don't take any pictures of him. That was my only rule.
Yeah.
Take pictures of the place, but not him.
Yeah. Vincent Cassell. Oh, and this is just a recent thing that I did for Garden and Gun. It wasn't on the cover, but this is he's in the new movie about a Civil War hero or something. This is just a recent cover of WWD magazine.
Oh, okay. So that's going to be real big.
Carolina Herrera. That's literally, I think that was just out a week ago.
I mean, WWD is like a
It's big. Yeah,
big.
yes, really big. I think we all know who
These
that is.
characters, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're great, and they do play, you know. The thing is, you've got to show that you're there for them.
Yeah.
You're not there for you. It's their time is precious.
Yeah, yeah. Incredible. And did you just do portrait work with him? I've had some folks photographing him down in Haiti and doing documentary work as well.
No, it was all portraits. Yeah.
This almost looks like a documentary shot, like it could be.
It was outside. It was I just loved the way it was. Michael Keaton.
Oh, that's cool.
Strange character. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's Beetlejuice. He's Batman.
Well, he's exactly the same as he was in his last
Birdman.
In his last movie, Birdman, is how he is in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's his real life.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Cool.
And these are the sort of trying to portray what they normally are like, but then with a bit of fun.
I've always worried about like bringing a prop to a shoot. I've had people just shut me down. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, that's true. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
With the guy that I was photographing yesterday, we changed our idea of props maybe 10 times and then just chucked them all away, which they never forget it. We don't do anything. We just need him and let's just work with him.
Right. I mean, every shot's different. It's got
this
a different.
this is
Skrelly.
Yes.
Aye.
This is perhaps one of the most weaselly weird chaps I've ever met. For a start, this was shot in the middle of winter. Who wears white trousers in the middle of winter? Not that I'm any fashion expert, but you know, that's very strange. And he was proud of the fact that he was all so money-minded. I'm afraid I have to say I did deliberately want to make him look like a sort of a Nosferatu Dracula man.
Well,
and I think it's bore out that he did because 2 weeks later he was arrested.
Oh, wow.
You know, he's the guy. For those who don't know, he's the guy who
made the AIDS medicine
thousandfolded the price of AIDS medicine. Yeah.
What a jerk.
Oh, look, we've got to
feel the burn.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
These are the last. These are the last few.
So so you went on the campaign trail a bit, or
no? Well, I was. This was for Esquire magazine, in actual fact, which ran.
Let's keep this one up for a minute.
Okay, this is the end of it. We're going to keep it up. Yeah. I was shooting. They originally were going to have all three of them on the cover. Him and Rubio and actually Mrs. Clinton. But they couldn't get Mrs. Clinton, and then that meant they just had to forget it, and they just ran Rubio on the inside. But the other significant thing is, after I'd done this, I had to also then go back to... I was working for CNN and had to photograph him for CNN. I don't know if any of you know those... Well, every time there's a debate, you see these pictures of the light whipping around someone's face. Well, I did that.
You're that guy.
Yeah, I'm that guy. And it was so easily done. We just literally stuck a light on a pole behind them on a boom and just literally had an assistant down behind their bum, and just swung the light around them. Yeah. We had to do it. We had like sort of 2 minutes with each person before they went into the first ever to the first ever debates, which CNN did.
Right.
So we got every single one of them. The only reason why we got him to do that was because everyone else had done it, and he was last, and we literally dragged him into our little tent to get it done. But so they're me, I'm afraid. Every time you see it when there's a debate, that's my doing.
So can you give, like, we had Mike Eisler on just a little bit ago, who was talking about being in his apartment, the experience. What was the experience like working with this guy, considering he is now sort of the person in the news? We got all sorts of stuff going on.
He's exactly like you see him on TV. That's not a put on act. That's him. I photographed him before, and he's been like that before as well. Even before he was into all this, he's a man who's very, very confident, perhaps overconfident sometimes, but and he likes to play to the audience. So long as he thinks that you like him, then he'll do whatever you want.
Right.
And that's he wants to be liked. It's sort of, I think there must be some sort of innate insecurity somewhere.
Yeah.
But as soon as he says one thing and people start cheering, he'll just keep going in that direction.
Sure. I mean, obviously, you've seen what's been going on with at this violence at his rallies. He's inciting people, and then one of our good friends. I know you're not really a photojournalist, but one of our good friends ended up getting beat up by a Secret Service officer recently, Christopher Morris. And,
Really.
I mean, it was insane. He took a step out of his pen.
Right.
To take pictures of protesters.
Well, they were there when I was shooting this. This was in Trump, in the offices in Trump Tower. But they were all okay, I think. But I'm in a very different sort of environment. I'm there to shoot him and to be, I'm not there.
He's going to be on the cover. He's
things.
Excited about being on the cover.
Absolutely.
And there's not much going on. It's very controlled.
Yeah, he doesn't like his profile.
Oh, yeah? Interesting. Interesting.
He wouldn't let me take his profile. Every time I moved around the edge, he would look this way, and then just keep going.
Really? What are you doing?
I'm trying to get a 3/4 shot. Sounds like looks like a profile to me. I was like, it's not.
Amazing. Well, I mean, I think needless to say, the work is truly beautiful, and
thank you.
Before I know that we've been going through all this for a while, but I want to talk about a couple transitions that you've been making. One's going to be in video, but also you've been doing charitable work. And I just want to maybe give a quick talk about that.
There are more on.
Oh, okay.
There are things on here. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
This is sort of stuff I like to do in my spare time for a charity called Operation Smile, and they work. There's a bunch of surgeons and nurses who give up their time from when they're having their vacations, and they'll go and descend upon a hospital in the middle of China or in the middle of India, and they'll fix cleft lips and cleft palates.
Right. Yeah.
And it's an incredible thing to see. These kids come in looking really, really quite disfigured, and they know it, and the healing for them almost starts right at the start, or at the beginning, when there's about 500 other kids looking exactly the same, with all the same problems that they have. And they've never, ever seen that before. So they then begin to feel they're not the monsters that all their school children have been telling them that they are.
Right.
And they do, some of them are not pretty to look at, I'll be honest with you. But they then start to begin their healing. But then literally an hour and a half operation that cost them like $100 or something, turns them into normal folk again. It's the most incredible thing to see. And
so this is some documentary work.
I like doing reportage.
Yeah,
it's fun.
You're not bad at it.
No. So and that's how I began actually doing reportage. Anyway, as you saw from the little girls walking in the steps.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic organization, and to actually be there and to witness a child go in to an operating theatre and to come out with their face fixed, and have them, just to see them holding their gone too far, but just to see them holding their holding a mirror. They get a mirror and a toothbrush at the end of everything, and they will not put that mirror down because they cannot stop looking at their faces.
It must be.
It's even now I'm sort of filling up. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to find something you're passionate about, to be able to give back, and so
yeah.
on.
I mean, I have had a great life, so
Yeah.
I should try and help someone else.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
The other thing we briefly talked about, and if you guys have any questions, we do have a hand mic, so we'll pass it over and get it ready. But one of the things I wanted to mention was your transition to video. Maybe we won't so much go into those now because I know it's all to music.
It's all to music,
But
yes.
if you go to nigelparryphoto.com, you
Yeah.
can see all sorts of reels, director's reels, and different projects you've been working on. What's that transition been like? Are you was it something that you felt you needed to do that you need to do now just because, or
it's something that was a necessity because of the iPad and because of magazines going much more online and things like that. So that's the main reason, because everybody wants more content. They think that because you're there, you can just use your iPhone, basically, and do something. They don't realize it's a little more complicated than that. But it's a thing which I do when I'm asked, and I enjoy doing it, too. I enjoy it in my way. Doing it in my way is the thing I like to do. Like you were mentioning earlier, with all the union rules and things like that, you can't touch this or you can't do that.
Yeah.
I find that most creatively inhibiting.
Yeah,
Because if I want to move a chair, I want to just get in and move that chair.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to do it.
That's one of the things I do the most whenever I go visit someone to take their portrait. I end up reorganizing their office.
You have
like,
to, yeah.
I need this over here by
Yeah.
this window.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we move it all out down the corridor? Yeah.
And then I do one of these things. You need me to help you move this back as I'm walking out the door?
Oh, no. That's
I'll
a big
get it.
no. I always put everything back exactly where
kidding, of course.
it came from.
Okay, questions. We got a question out here. Here you go. 1 second. We'll turn that microphone on. All right.
First, I want to say great work.
Oh, thank you.
Great experience.
Thanks very much.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned something about the famous people, working with them, but what is more difficult, working with famous people like celebrities or politicians? Which one were more difficult for you to work with?
Well, that's actually they each have their. Everyone's different, so it doesn't really matter who you are or what you do. You have certain things that you want to feel about yourself, and one is that you're important, and that you're not being your time's not being wasted. So I think in that respect, I am known to be very fast, no matter what. Even if I have a celebrity for a day, I'll shoot in short bursts, but everything will be planned to the nth degree beforehand. So that way they know, and my assistants do run around. I mean, we work very fast, and maybe that's the reason why I'm sweating, really. But it's the feeling that they have to know that it's, no matter who they are, they have to know that they're the most important thing there. You're not the star as the photographer. They are the most important thing, and you're there to capture them in a way that is honest. And you're there really as a sort of processor of what you see and put it out to the rest of the world. It's a tremendously responsible. I feel it's a tremendously responsible business that I'm in, because you can make someone look terrible, or you can make someone look powerful and scary, because they are powerful and scary. Which is there's nothing wrong in that, but to deliberately set out and make someone, or irresponsibly make someone look foolish or lose their dignity is something which we should avoid at all costs. But as going back to that, celebrities are used to it. So they're used to having a camera pointed in their face. Most celebrities that I work with are film actors and actresses, and they don't actually like being captured in a still. They prefer the fluidity and the constant sort of chameleon change that they can make. But they tolerate it, and they're generally very gracious about it. Politicians generally have no time. You have to be absolutely spot on. You have to make sure that they know that you're rushing from one thing to another. Otherwise, they'll walk.
Also, as an addition to that question, from the celebrities or from the politicians, can you share with us who you have most difficult working with? Like somebody's being...
Oh, I think the most horrible person I've ever photographed in the whole world was Luciano Pavarotti, and I have no qualms about saying that. He's dead anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Also, second question. You work with a lot of publications, and you
fewer
have
and fewer these days. Yeah.
but you have a lot of experience with them. Do they trust you more? Like, do you get assignments more often, or they're just like, okay, you have this celebrity, you have this time, you have this place, just photograph it for us?
Yeah, generally, people will just say it's a time and a place, do what you want. Or, say with Esquire magazine, the creative director there, David Kirgarito, he will get together over a couple of beers and try and work out what we're going to do. And then I'm a very good refiner of other people's ideas. I'm not great at coming up with them myself unless I'm like really pushed to a limit. But I'm much better at refining other people's ideas. So if he says, yeah, we want someone doing this, I'll say, okay, let's make that a bit better by doing this. And that's basically what I do best, I think. Yeah.
Hey, Nigel. So I just have been inspired by you for years. I actually met you.
Oh gosh, shut up! I'm gonna blush so much.
Here's the question. Well, I have had a problem with this, and I think you give other photographers license to crop people's heads off and stuff like that. And I started doing that and got a really hard time. I think your composition is phenomenal, and I think you've given other photographers license to crop the way that we want to crop.
That was from David Bailey, though. I got it from him.
Okay.
All right. So just to let you know who I stole from.
Amazing.
Yeah. Actually, David Bailey is perhaps one of the biggest influences I've ever had. As a kid growing up, I just loved to see his stuff in England. And when I saw the movie Blow Up, I thought, I want to be a photographer. But I did notice that. Actually, you mentioned composition. I think because of my design background, composition I don't even think about. It just comes without it. It's totally second nature. For me, it's like walking down the street. So that I think maybe allows me to then concentrate on my connection with the person to try and get something out of them and sort of get inside their heads.
Do you ever have to answer to that to a client? Hey, we don't want you cropping the head off, or do you have to ever have to worry about a certain space that they have to fit it in?
Well, always, yeah. For a cover, you can't crop the head on a cover. So you have to be very mindful. Again, from my design experience, some people will actually tell me, look, we want you to shoot this, so it'll do a double-page spread, or we're going to do 1/3, 2/3 crop. So make sure you don't have the subject running in the gutter. So, but for me, then I know that's my, what I have to do, and I'm so used to working in those terms from having been a designer anyway. So I think I have provided, in that way, I've been very mindful of what the creative director is going to want and what I'm going to be able to give him he's going to be able to use really well.
Do you mostly crop in camera, or do you go in afterwards?
With the Hasselblad, yeah, you can see most of them still have the rebate on when I used to print myself. These days, because the 35mm is not really the format that I like, I imagine what it's going to be like when I've cropped it. So I take the photograph, and you'll see a lot of my photographs, if you actually saw them as captures, a lot of the top third, there's nothing there, or I pay no attention to it, because in my mind, the area is what I'm working with there, sort of the bottom 2/3. And then I'll crop it then, but it's shot deliberately to do that. Or I'll deliberately crop the top of the head off, and you'll see all the way down to here, but I'm only going to do it from here.
Right, that's great. Awesome. Who's got it?
Nope, he's got one.
Hi, Nigel. I have a question for you. You were talking before about, less and less for a second jobs from magazines calling and stuff. Lord knows in this industry these days, it's amongst a lot of people. But with you being so established and such a phenomenal career, do you ever think of having an assistant that's going to help you with the new social media world and get your name out even more these days? Because these days, unfortunately, everybody's a brand, and everybody, no matter who they are, has to keep getting their name out there more and more and more.
That's a good question, because I meant to ask you about that as well.
Just curious.
Thanks. Yeah.
I wish you hadn't asked me that question.
Well, I'm sorry. I work in this space now. I used to be a photo editor. So.
Okay. All right. This was brought home really, really heavily to me just last week. My English rep, who deals with me only for advertising and stuff, actually said, hey, Nigel, I know what you like, how you don't like putting your stuff on social media and stuff. She said, but I'm going to have to do it because now the ad agencies are only having photographers who have massive followings on social media because they get a double hit because they think you're going to put it up there and then 200,000 more people see it. I said, well, it's not going to help because I'm not going to put the work up there. So it's not going to help them anyway, so you can tell them that for a start. Because I don't put work that I do on the internet. I just put fun things that I like to shoot on Instagram. And they're all shot with the iPhone too. So, so yeah, I'm toying with it all the time. My agent wants me to literally have a separate Instagram account called Nigel Parry Portrait, not Nigel Parry Photo. And all he wants me to do is to put work I've done up there. I'm such a old-fashioned stickler in the mud here. I just find, I mean, how can my stuff compare with a half-eaten plate of food? I feel it's demeaning to everybody. It's demeaning that a half-eaten plate of food is up there to begin with. But I mean, then you put your work and it's judged by the same standards. I find it so hard to do, but having said that, I'll do it kicking and screaming probably. I'll have had enough. I'll be like, whatever, just stop moaning about me. Stop moaning to me about it and I'll do it, all right? But that I have to say, I am kicking and screaming in doing it.
Well, you're on Instagram.
Yeah, but I refuse to put work up. It's all just fun stuff.
Nigel Parry Photo, and that's fine. People can have that. I mean, that's a story of your life essentially through photos.
Well, it isn't really either because I always think they should look all right. The photographs, you know.
Yeah.
If it's a story of my life, it would be a half-eaten plate of food, wouldn't it? Or actually, for me, probably the residue that's left at the bottom of a beer pot. Or something
well, there we go. Afterwards, afterwards, we can grab some beer. Got a question back here.
So, one question, or two parts really. Do you prefer, when you can, to meet your subjects and before you have a session with them before you actually get to work, or meet them cold and just?
I much prefer to meet them cold.
All right.
Yeah. Because I think first impressions count the most. It's like seeing a photograph. You've got to get something from a photograph immediately, and I think you get something from a person immediately too.
And that said, you got very image-conscious subjects, so your ability to break past them is past that self-consciousness is pretty remarkable.
Well, I'll do whatever it takes. I sweat a lot, so that makes people very sympathetic. And they're like, oh, poor little soul, you know. So everything will be all right. So I want to get them thinking that anyway. Well, actually, they think it anyway. It's not that I'm trying. I'm a big melting thing in front of them. And they sort of take sympathy for me, I think. And the other thing is as well, again, it's just showing them that they're the most important thing. You lay yourself bare, you know. I'm wanting them to lay themselves bare, and I have to do that to begin with to show them what I'm wanting. And a lot of people respond to that. I'm a bumbling fool. I'll drop trow if I need to to actually get a reaction.
Amazing. Any other questions from the audience before we round this thing up? All right. Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Nigel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great.
We'll see you again next time. Thanks again, Adorama, Canon Professional Services, Temba Bags, and of course, Nigel.
I didn't even have to use my towel either.
Hey. All right. We'll see you guys again next time. Cheers.